Story time about how I tried to stick up for this kid on the bus, but it got me suspended. So a little background information, I was 12 and in 7th grade. So it was a Wednesday, and when school ended, I got on the afternoon bus. And there was this boy named Josh that I was friends with. So I went and I sat next to him on the bus. After like 5 minutes of us waiting for the bus driver to get back on the bus, this boy named Kai, that everybody loves for some reason, comes over and rips me out of the seat. After that, he sits down next to Josh and starts punching him and screaming at him. So I grab this kid by his book bag, rip him out of the seat, and I sit next to Josh. I put my headphones in, plug in my phone, and this kid grabs the phone, throws it at the front of the bus. And there weren't any adults on the bus at this time because our bus driver was using the bathroom. And I didn't go up and get my phone because I knew that if I moved, this kid was probably going to hurt Josh again. So then this kid starts trying to punch me. So I punch him in the stomach. An adult comes on the bus, finally, like for part 2. Part 2 about how I got suspended for trying to stick up for some kid on the bus. So like I said, this kid is starting to try to punch me. So I punch him in the stomach. Finally, an adult gets on the bus. She yells at us to all sit down. And by the way, all the little fucking 12-year-olds had their phones out recording what was happening. So they look at the cameras, they were interviewing some of the kids, and Josh's sister comes up to me, and I was like, oh, shit. Hopefully she's not going to yell at me. I don't know why she would, but still. She was like, hey, I just wanted to say thank you for sticking up for my brother. So then after a little bit, I hear my name get called on the speaker. Kai, Josh, and I were all called down to the office. All of our parents were there. Kai got a 3-day suspension, and I got a 3-week suspension. Even though I literally had scratches all over my freaking arms, and Kai didn't even have a bruise on him. Well, my mom, being the boss-ass bitch that she is, she told the school that if they went through with my suspension, she would call the news and tell them that my school was letting kids get away with bullying. Story time on when I caught my stepdad abusing my mom. So a little background information, men are trash, and I was 13 and in 7th grade. Well, it was my birthday and my mom took me to the shoe store to get some new shoes, and I saw this guy keep staring at my mother. So I pulled my mom aside and whispered to her like, hey, there's some dude staring at us, because low-key he looked creepy as hell. Well, apparently he wasn't creepy. He came up to my mom and started talking to her, and he was flirting with my mom a lot, so I grabbed a random pair of shoes and told her I was ready to go. Her and I walk up to the register. I think the conversation is over with her and James. But then he's like, oh, like, let me pay for that. Next thing you know, they exchange numbers and I start seeing him a lot more. And my mom seemed very happy, like she was smiling 24/7. So fast forward, we all move in together and I got a job. Well, my best friend Kayla was 17 and she had her driver's license. Like for part 2. Story time about how my mom planned to kill me. Yes, I said my mother. So a little background information, I was 16 years old and I was in 11th grade. Now, it's not like my mom hated me my whole life, because there was a time whenever she was super happy and she did really love me. Well, it all started whenever my dad had left her. She went into this deep depression. She quit her job. She wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. She stopped cooking, stopped cleaning, and she always blamed me because she thought it was my fault that our dad left. When in reality, my dad still texts me all the time asking how I'm doing. All of a sudden, a flip switch, my mom started cooking again, going to work. I never really ate her food because it low-key looked weird. But one day I came home from school and saw her putting rat poison in my food. And I wish I was kidding. But she's fucking crazy. So I said hi, but she didn't answer me. So I tapped her on the shoulder. She turned around and put a knife up to my neck. I ran out the door, called the police. They arrested her, and now I am happily living with my father and my non-crazy. Story time about why my best friend cut me off. So a little background information, I was 24 and I had a full-time job as a nurse, and I had been best friends with this girl since we were in 7th grade. As soon as she turned 21, she got married, had a kid, and just like any young tragic love story, her boyfriend, who was way older than her, left her for some girl who just turned 18. So I ended up letting her move in with me. She had too much pride to go back to her mom's house. I ended up kicking her out of my house though, because she would have random guys over 24/7, and she would smoke you know what in my house. So I had the cops called on me 24/7 because my neighbors could smell it. So fast forward to now, she's living with her mom. Her and I got over that fight, and she decided that she wanted to go to college. I was so proud of her, but she asked me if I could watch her kid when she had to go into school because she was doing mostly online. So of course I said yes, I wanted her to succeed. Like for part 2. Part 2 about why my best friend cut me off. So like I said, she finally decided to go to college. Me being super happy for her, I would watch her kid whenever she would have to go into school. Well, the one night I'm making dinner and her kid's in the living room, I'm in the kitchen, and I go into the living room to tell him that dinner is ready, and I see my dog backed up into a corner and him with a fire poker literally poking my dog. I wouldn't even call it poking, he was pretty much trying to stab my dog. My dog has its ears back, it's shaking with anxiety. So I go over and I rip it out of his hands and I smack his fingers. And I tell him, we do not do that to the dog. Like, what is wrong with you? So my friend comes, picks him up. A few days later, she comes to drop him off again. And she says, hey, can I talk to you? I already knew what it was about, so I was expecting this. She was like, Gavin told me that you hit him last time he was here. And I was like, yeah, he pretty much was stabbing my dog. And then she's like, oh, well, he doesn't mean any harm. He plays with the dogs like that at home. Like, okay, sis. Story time about my unhealthy obsession with my ex-boyfriend. So a little background information, I was 18 and in 12th grade. And him and I have been dating for about 4 years. And it was around Thanksgiving, so it was pretty much college decision time. I got accepted into UCLA and I was really happy because it was super close to home. And my boyfriend, who we're gonna call Devin, got accepted there also. So I was super excited that we did not have to do the long distance thing. Until a week later, he calls me, and apparently he got some soccer scholarship. So now he's going to Berkeley. So I was like, okay, maybe we can make long distance work. Well, then he tells me that he doesn't want to make it work and he thinks that we should just break up. Well, a week after that, him and I were sleeping together again. So I thought that meant that we were back together. The one day I was leaving his house and I heard his mom talking about me. And she was like, oh, is she coming to the Christmas party? And I was super, super happy. Until Devin says, oh, we're not together anymore and I'm thinking of inviting a different girl. Well, a week later, the party rolls around and I decide that I'm going to show up anyways. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my unhealthy obsession with my ex-boyfriend. So like I said, he thought that he was bringing some random girl to his Christmas party, and I decided that I was going to show up there anyways. So I'm sitting in the car outside of his house the day of the Christmas party, pretty much just giving myself a little pep talk. Eventually I go up, I knock on the door, his dad answers, gives me a big hug, and tells me that he's downstairs with all of his cousins playing the video game. So I go downstairs, and as soon as I get down the stairs, all of his cousins look at me, and they give me the look of like, oh shit, she is not supposed to be here right now. And then I see the bathroom door closed with the light on. So I walk over, open the door, and what do I see? A girl from our school giving my boyfriend head. Well, my ex-boyfriend, but still, he was my boyfriend. So I didn't even give her time to get up before I started wailing on her. A few punches and kicks later, my boyfriend starts screaming in pain. After that, I got kicked out of the house, and I had to pay some medical bills because she bit my boyfriend. And I'm still on probation for beating her ass. Story time about the girl who left me unconscious in the girls' bathroom. So a little background information. I was pretty young at the time. I was in 7th grade and I was 11 years old. And there was this girl who we're gonna call Jenna. Jenna hated me for absolutely no fucking reason. She would bully me because I had red hair, and she would text me literally every day at the same time, telling me to off myself, and how I was weird and how nobody liked me. One day she randomly started being nice to me. She sat with me at lunch and her water bottle was empty, and she asked if I needed mine filled up too. Stupidly, I said yes. Well, she ended up putting drugs in my water bottle. After like 20 minutes, I started feeling sick, so I went to the bathroom, and I was kneeling over the toilet when everything went black. Well, when I didn't come back from the bathroom, my teacher got worried, so she sent security looking for me. They were banging on my stall. Obviously, I was fucking unconscious, so I didn't answer. So then they called the fire department, the police, the ambulance were all there. Like for part 2 about the girl who left me unconscious in the girls' bathroom. So like I said, the fire department was there, the police, the ambulance. They called the fire department because they couldn't get the door off, and when they removed it, it fell on me. So I was injured and unconscious. And just a little background information on this girl, who, mind you, was literally 11 years old. She had a 3 criminal record and was recently in prison for 5 days, or juvie, whatever the heck you want to call it, because she brought a knife to school and tried to stab some kid who had called her fat the day before. Anyways, back to the story. I wake up 4 days later. My mom's sitting next to me. They put Abby in jail for 13 years. For suspicion of attempted murder, and she was kicked out of school. And now I'm homeschooled and failing all my classes. I now have seizures because of the drugs that she gave me. So yeah. Part 2 about when I caught my stepdad abusing my mother. So like I said, we all moved in together. My mother was super happy, and I had a job. My best friend would come and pick me up after this job, and I would usually get off work around 7 p.m. Well, around this time, James would have already been at work. He usually started work at like 6 o'clock. But every time that I would come home, my mother would be crying in her bedroom. So I ended up telling my best friend about it, and she said that she would come and get me early the next day from work, so that way we could possibly see what was happening while I wasn't there. So fast forward the next day, Kayla come and gets me early from work. She pulls around the corner and we walk to my house because they would have seen her car if we parked on the street. I quietly unlock the door. My best friend and I go upstairs. We hear my mom screaming in pain, and the bedroom door was wide open. He was hitting my mother. So I kind of whispered to my best friend to take a video while I called the cops. He ended up going to jail, got a restraining order, and now my mom and I are living in a new house. Story time about the 18-year-old girl who never knew that a year and a half later she would have over 8 million supporters. So a little background information, she was working at this pizza shop in her hometown, deciding whether she wanted to go to college or not. She graduated early. She was working 12-hour days, almost 5 days a week, and just really didn't know what she wanted to do with her life. Now, for some reason, she also noticed that she was fucking terrible at makeup. Like, could not do makeup to save her life. So what does she decide to do? She decides to share this with the few followers that she has on TikTok. So she found somebody else's sound, she did her makeup to it, and she decided that she was going to keep doing this until she got better at doing her makeup. So she does her makeup at 4 in the morning, goes to sleep at 6, wakes up at 11 to go to work. While she's at work, she opens her phone, goes on TikTok, and realizes that her video got over 700,000 likes. Now, at first she thought that she was just going to do this and she was most likely going to forget about it, maybe come back in a month and do it one more time. But this motivated her to keep doing it. So she found another sound, did it again. Then she ran out of sounds to use, so she started telling her own story times. And her supporters loved this, okay? Like, they were all on board with it, you know? She was growing very freaking fast, like really fast. Well then, as you can guess, she ran out of her own stories to tell, so she asked her supporters if they would like to send in their own story times. What do you know, a shit ton of her supporters flooded her DMs with story times, the craziest ones you can imagine. So then what does she do? She calls it Story Time from Anonymous. Now, obviously, you know this girl is me, I'm not gonna lie, you know, but I just wanted to sit here and say thank you guys so much for 8 million supporters. I never imagined this would be me in my life, you know, like, I always thought that I was gonna go off to college and be a teacher or something like that, you know. But I love what I do on here, and I love filming content for you guys. No, this is not the story time for the week. I'm going to be filming a story time for tomorrow. But yeah, I love you guys so much, and I feel like I never do anything whenever I hit a milestone because I'm more worried about the content that I need to pump out for you guys, like, you know, all the story times and stuff. So I took some pictures with some balloons, and there's going to be an awkward silence while I show you guys them. Or, I mean, you could just go look on my Instagram. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to show them on here. This one I thought was cute. Aw, look at the smile. This one could have been better. The 8 is cut off. Why does the 8 look like an S? Anyways, if you guys stayed till the end of this video, I love you guys, and I will be posting a story time tomorrow. Peace.